Well, greetings everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday evening right here at the Sports Crib. As always, let's get the commercial stuff out of the way. As you can see on the bottom, you can subscribe and donate to our channel here on YouTube. Our Cash App is $ JE King 3. And let's get this show on the road. I see Demetrius is fresh back from Detroit. I had to put the picture up there on Facebook. I see Reggie is here.
Yeah.
I know he's on a real strict schedule here, but how you doing tonight, guys?
Good. Reggie got some explaining to do. So,
yeah, I'm ready, man. I came on just for that one subject.
Right. A quick story. I'm sitting there watching the draft. How long was it, Reggie? 45 seconds, maybe?
It wasn't a full minute.
It wasn't a full minute. I pulled out my phone. I'm like, I know who I'm calling. I need an explanation. What the hell is this about? He was calm. To his credit, he was calm. He was like, listen. There's logic behind this. And he broke it down for me. And he actually changed my mind about it. I was hot.
Okay.
What the hell are they thinking? But no, he changed my mind about it. I get it now. I see what they're doing. I'm not sure what they're doing. We'll get to
that. After I read that article and I thought about it, I kind of understood it too.
Yeah.
So real quick, guys, Reggie, I know you didn't really have a dog in this race, but I kind of remember you liking the Thunder.
I do like the Thunder. I like the Thunder. I've liked them for the last couple of years, though, because of the up and coming. I'm a fan in sports of seeing teams, whether I'm a fan of that particular team or not, come up over time, and you kind of see them start to chip away, and they start in they're mired in mediocrity or sub mediocrity, and they start to kind of chip away at it. These are things that I saw the Kings and the Thunder do over the last few years. Just kind of start chip away, and becoming relevant. And I feel like they've kind of fast forwarded that process. I don't necessarily have them coming out of the West, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did, and that would put them way ahead of the schedule as far as where I would have had them. I would have had them. They're probably a year or two ahead of schedule as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the thing is, you have the Thunder. The Timberwolves and the Nuggets going at it. So that's one of those has.
Thank goodness for the Thunder, by the way. I know they're happy to see them knock one another off, like somebody from you guys knock each other off, so we don't have to see, both teams.
Yeah, precisely. So what do you guys think about the Lakers? Are they done as a unit? Are they going to break up? I mean, is Mr. Scott, as Mr. Scott says, are we going to take our talents elsewhere? Bronny's coming out supposedly. He's in the portal to come out. So is the King leaving? Are we going to have a team in Las Vegas sooner than later? What do you think?
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. I'll start. I think. I think it's going to be. I think this is it actually. So I think there was always this want to play with Bronny thing, but at some point, somebody who loves him has to sit him down and say, "Hey, listen, man, Bronny ain't that good. Bronny's just not that good." And it's love, right? I don't know the kid. I'm sure he's a really good kid, and the health thing scares me. I would be more worried about that. But some team may draft Bronny strictly because he's unrestricted now. Dad's unrestricted. Yeah. I mean, well, he can be. He can opt in. But if the Pistons draft Bronny, right? What then? I can't watch basketball for a year. Apparently, I got to give up the NBA for a whole year. But that was always the plan that he announced like 3 or 4 years ago, which is I want to play a year with Bronny. Yeah. Now the reality is, Dad's still good enough. He at 39, he still might be a top 20 player in the league.
Agreed.
So it's a tough thing because somewhere deep inside he realizes Bronny ain't good enough. But if the Lakers,
we've talked.
He has to know, right?
We've talked about this for almost 3 weeks.
Right.
When Bronny first said he was he's going into the portal. If he was anybody other than James,
Right.
if his name was Perry, somebody would be telling him, maybe you might want to do something else.
Yeah.
Uh, but
we'll see. I think it's kind of done though, because what we know, because me, I'm about data. As constructed, they're not beating the Nuggets anytime soon. We have learned this in a painful and unfortunate way. We all have to acknowledge they're just not built. Now, can they do some revamping while at the same time find a roster spot for Bronny to make sure Dad stay? I guess you could do that. I guess as constructed.
Mr. Irrelevant, put him down. He'd be the 15th guy down there on the bench. I mean,
but what would be the point of that if he's down there in a suit? Does that actually satisfy what Dad wants?
He ever comes off the bench, right?
He's gonna have to get minutes. LeBron's not saying go draft Bronny and sit Bronny at the end of the bench to hold my water bottle. He expects Bronny to be on the floor.
Maybe when Dad falls down, he can get the towels and
It'll be interesting to watch that play out because that's going to be the story of the summer. Because I don't think he opts in and he waits to see what happens. So then somewhere in late June, 28th, 29th, whenever that is, that's going to get interesting.
Okay, now when it comes time for him to retire, does he retire as a Laker or does he retire as a Cavalier, Reg?
I think probably as a Laker. I mean, how many years was he with Cleveland? Was that in totality? Was it 4 years, 5 years? No, because he's with them about 6 or 7 years. The first contract, right?
Yeah, six the first time.
Probably almost double digits, almost 9-10 years. Actually,
I think it's 9. Yeah, I think it's 9.
Probably as. I mean, I think it depends on how his tenure ends here as a Laker, right? Like if he somehow miraculously gets to another finals and they win, it's hard to envision him then going to Cleveland and retiring as a Cavalier. But if they don't, they just kind of, do what they've done the last year or two here, then I don't see why you would retire a Laker, right? Go back to the hometown, give it to the hometown people.
That'd be the story. Because if my math works, Bronny was probably born in Cleveland, right? I mean, I would assume Bronny was born in Cleveland.
Well, he was born in Akron, same.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Same thing,
Yeah. I spent enough time in that area. It's all the same.
Yeah,
I think that's what he would have to do, right? And the Bronny situation, guys, is funny because just like piggybacking off what you said earlier, James, if his last name was Bronny Jones and he's a guy with a heart issue who averages 5 points a game.
Exactly.
What? Like why are we talking? Laugh the guy out of here. We wouldn't even be having conversations about this guy. But instead, he's an NIL king, making all this money, doing absolutely Lord knows what. We don't know what he does. I don't know what he does well. Maybe he can shoot the ball. Maybe LeBron can twist some arms team into having him out there.
5 points a game answers the that question that maybe he can shoot the ball.
Yeah, man. He averages I think he's like a triple single guy, right? He averages 5 points, I think two assists, like 2 rebounds or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't. You would not be discussing this guy if his last name was anything else.
Right. Well, anybody else would not be entering the portal with those type of statistics.
Wait, we're not just going to go by the new term triple single.
Right? Yeah, triple single. That's what he is.
Triple single. That's awesome.
He's going to give you 5, 2, and 2. You know what I mean? And you're going to run him out there for that. Like, and the thing is, too, LeBron is so good that you can't really fathom in your head having them on the court at the same time. Because if I have LeBron on the court, I need production. That's what he's out there for, right?
Right.
If I have Bronny on the court, it's garbage time. So it's kind of like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know even how, just maybe LeBron puts it in his contract. The kid gets 4 minutes, at least a minute a quarter with me on the court. We're out there, we'll play, we'll play our little catch and like we're in the backyard, except it's an NBA game.
If we find out something like that, I'm dedicating the final thoughts to the absurdity of putting that shit in your contract. I will not let that slide. That is unacceptable. But it might happen because he didn't.
I don't know how he gets on the court otherwise.
But now, here's the thing: the young brother got hoops.
Oh, he ain't making it. LeBron ain't making it to him though, right? He's the one that wears like the
No,
glasses, the taller one,
no.
right? Right.
He's not making it to him. But I'm just saying, like it's kind of like, when the younger brother outdoes you and the father outdoes you, and you average, would you say a triple single?
Yeah.
What, LaMelo and
with a heart
Lonzo?
issue. With a heart issue.
The
a
heart
triple
issue is my
single.
biggest concern. I wish the
Right.
kid
That's just a
nothing but good
safety. That's
stuff,
just a safety
but that
concern, like from a human
scares
being
me.
standpoint,
Yeah, I would put all the rest of that aside. Your dad's one of the richest athletes in the world. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing, man? You need to intern for Maverick Carter and go build a career.
Right. Go do something else, man.
Yeah.
Look at what Cooper Manning. Look at Cooper Manning, right? Cooper Manning did something else. He didn't have to go play football. He went and did something else. You can go do something else and still contribite in some way.
Shoot, hey,
exactly. Still a man.
Like you say, go, intern, or whatever. I mean, it's not. I'm sure, you're not gonna be, like the guy in the bathroom, giving out cologne and,
Goodness gracious, at the club, right? And now lotion and cologne for tips. A wicker basket in the bathroom. Yeah, goodness gracious.
You'll be better than that for sure. Better than that.
You'll do better than that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, So let's talk a little bit about the festivities that you did there, Mr. Burgess. Over 700,000 people attending.
700,000. Goodness gracious.
That's 775,000 is the last number I got. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the for the last 2 days, they couldn't find anybody, right?
Of course.
But how was the crowd? Tell us about that experience, man.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. So for me, it was bigger, right? Because the draft is my favorite event of the year. More than games, I love the draft. And then it's in my city, and my team is good at the time. And my brother flew in, I had cousins, right? It was a once in a lifetime thing. So it's super special for me personally. But I'm super proud of the city, man. They nailed it. They home runned it, right? The way Detroit is laid out, they laid it out perfectly. The events and the Detroit Lions experience and the 40-yard dash, that was in one area. And then you take a little stroll down Woodward to Campus Martius, and the stage was there. Easy flow. Security was perfect. There were no incidents. I looked to find something. I heard one knucklehead got into a fight on Friday or something like that. Everything else, think about the logistics, the planning, and everything, the bathrooms, the food trucks, everything you have to do to support what you thought was going to be around 350 or 4. And then basically double the number you thought. They were turning people away every single day. They hit capacity. And when we were walking out, there were people waiting. They counted us and they let people in. That's how it was. And the city nailed it. It was so well done. God blessed us with excellent weather for late April in Detroit. The weather was outstanding. They had events for kids. They had jerseys. They had helmets. You walk into the Detroit Lions experience and they have you write your name and your school on a card and they announce you like you're coming into a game. Right? There's crazy stuff. And I sent you guys a couple of the pictures, right? They were doing the little fake tattoos. The experience was fantastic. The city hit a home run. The people showed out. The weather showed out. I don't know that it could have gone better. I got to be honest. And it's a big deal. 800,000 people in 3 days in that city for that event. The impact economically to the city of Detroit, it is $150, $200 million. Wow. A city like Detroit needs that, right? That's why you campaign for these events and you get them, because it can do such a boost to the economy. Now I got a great story about a $9 taco that I'll tell y'all some other time. It'll have to be after dark, because I got to tell y'all what my brother said, right? The beers were $16, but that's to be expected. Gracious. Number one. And you know what? It wasn't like they had excess. They were still selling out, because when you got us all in this spot and we all want to be here, we're going to pay what we pay. Right. Because that's the point, right? They were selling mini helmets for $150. I bought a golf jersey. I mean, it was fantastic. I can't say that. I could do the whole podcast and break down how they laid it out, the engineering. The one complaint, if you hear some people who were there talk about it, it's going to be about food. It was, I mean, the they had basically food trucks. They shut all the restaurants down. It wasn't logistically doable. It just wasn't. You couldn't do that. But there were food trucks at every corner, good food trucks. M&M's Mom's Spaghetti food truck was there.
Okay.
Now, the lines were enormous.
I bet you incredibly long. Absolutely.
But they thought they were going to get 350 to 400,000, and they had 275 the first day. The first day they had 275,000. We were down there. Big Sean's concert, everybody packed right there. It was awesome. So yeah, I'm biased, but I was there. I'm still just getting my voice back. I don't know if you could tell, my voice was out by midday Friday. I've been working this past week trying to get my voice back. It far exceeded my expectations, and my expectations were high. The city, the people, the NFL showed out. They did it right. It was well laid out. The bar is high. Green Bay can't do it the way we did it. They're gonna have to have stuff at the stadium. The cities are just different, like geographically, and they're constructed differently. But the city hit a home run. It was great for the city. The people were great. Yeah, I mean, I challenge people to go find somebody who said something bad.
Could Green Bay hold 700,000?
They're going to have to use the stadium for a lot of stuff that Detroit was able to put in
tailgate type situation.
Right.
Man.
It's going to be a massive tailgate. And logistically, if 700,000 people descended on Green Bay, Wisconsin a year from now, there's nowhere for them to stay. They're going to stay in Oshkosh and Apple. They're going to stay like an hour away. Whereas like I said, the city hooked it up. Windsor, Canada chipped in. They had people over there across the river. It was executed about as well as you can execute. Almost 800,000 people hitting your downtown over 3 days.
The entire population of Green Bay is 106,000 people.
There you go. That's it. That's such a better point. Now they know this, and they've had a year already, and they have another year. And hopefully Green Bay had some people there saying, let's see what Detroit did. And the smartest thing they did was the logistics, the flow. They laid the flow out. There were no big congested areas. When you were ready to go to the stage, it was an easy, simple walk. And we all just walked down Woodward to Campus Martius Park. Boom, stage was there. Walked in, it was perfect. You want to go back to the things, go back the other direction. 5 entrances. Security was great. It was just well done. A lot of people, man, did a lot of work to make that thing go off the way it did, especially with them damn near doubling the expected attendance. It was really well done.
And as you said, there was no major arrests.
Yeah.
I
heard about one fight Friday, a basic bar fight, which happens every Friday.
Yeah,
that's a Friday thing. That's
a Friday. It's
a bar thing, right?
The best story I got is Lions Pro Bowl center Frank Ragnow tries to inconspicuously just walk by us. Right, we're in the line getting these tacos. Frank's cutting through with his family. He's got his hat down, and I'm like, "Yo, hey, man." You're just going, and he was like, nobody even recognized him. He's got on flip flops and a t-shirt. And I look at my brother, and he's like, "That's Frank Ragnow." Yeah, he just kind of cuts through the crowd. Like, this dude's a 2-time Pro Bowler, and he just cuts
enjoying
through the crowd,
the festivities,
just walking through
with
on a Thursday afternoon with his family, cutting through, and people aren't even bothering him. I'm like, hey. He looked at me and was like, he's like, "Shut up, man! They don't know it's me. Be quiet." That's pretty cool though. But yeah, they did it up. And by the way, Jared Goff is a god in Detroit. You guys don't know Jared Goff.
No doubt.
They chant his name at hockey games. They just start chanting Jared Goff. He hit the stage and he's got Barry, he's got Calvin, he's got Hutch, St. Brown, all these people. Eminem's on stage with him.
Yeah.
Crowd starts chanting Jared Goff. Like, okay, and he's such a good dude. Yeah, it was awesome.
Now, are you going to pay him?
Got to pay him. That ain't even a question.
Right. I don't know how you let him out of there. You can't let him out.
You know how many years before Matthew Stafford showed up, we went without a good quarterback? We know what good quarterback play means now, and we've got one. I don't care we don't really care what the rest of the world thinks of him. You got to pay him. He is a leader. You got to pay him.
He's been
and he's going to get really paid, by the way. He's going to get 50-ish. They're gonna extend it.
Gosh, now my stomach's hurting. Now my stomach. Yeah, now my stomach just got a little bit.
It's gonna be close to 50.
He's got to get Kirk Cousins money.
It's gonna be 4 years, 190, 130 of it's gonna be guaranteed. 140 of it's gonna be guaranteed. That's what he's gonna get. Now he's got a year left, so maybe it'll 3 and 148 or something like that. He's gonna get somewhere between 47 and 50. He deserves every penny. He'll get more than 100 million guaranteed.
Oh, he's gonna
He
get more.
deserves every penny.
Just due to age, for sure.
Right. And he's literally in his prime, by the way. He's playing the best football of his career the last 2 years. I don't know why we wouldn't. I don't think it's an issue. I think we got Sewell and St. Brown done last week.
Yeah.
He's just next. He's next on the list. It's a weird position for us to be in where we're not worried about trying to get other people's free agents or convince some dude to come. We got to pay our own people, right? Our biggest challenge now because now we got Hutch is going to come up soon. Last year's rookie class had 4 starters. We're going to pay them eventually. We got a tackle named Lee McNeil who's got to get paid. And it's
pay him now and get it over with. Just
right. It's a different kind of thing, but it's like,
don't do the Cowboys. You see what happened to the Cowboys. Don't wait.
Exactly.
To the very
People
last moment
who think the salary cap is a figment and you can work it. No. Ask the Chargers if the salary cap is fake. Ask the Buffalo Bills if the salary cap doesn't matter. It matters. But we got the executive of the year. And so at this point, we're just like, whatever Brad Holmes does is right. I don't even care. I did my pre-draft podcast and said, the right pick is the one that Brad Holmes makes. I'm not going to sit on here and predict their picks and tell you guys.
Total trust.
Exactly. Whatever Brad Holmes does, it's the right thing. And of course, he nailed it. I love everything he did.
And people can also find you on Alignable. I saw you on there today. So, yeah, there's a lot of places where people can find out about Demetrius and his podcast, right?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
Okay, Reg.
Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast, always out there.
All right, Reg. Now,
explain this shit.
The single moment I came on this show for.
Holy crap. I literally, before you get started, was either one of you, was it the biggest stunner that you guys have seen in the draft?
Absolutely. Like
I said, it took me about 30 seconds to dial Reggie's number because I was like, what the hell just happened?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Reggie was concerned that they were going to take away that number 8 pick the last time we talked.
Because people were saying that it could be the first. Now it was a muted concern because we didn't think that we were concerned they were going to take a pick this year. Of course, there's some concern that it'll be the 8, but we were under the impression that if they did take the pick this year, it wasn't going to be the first round pick. But there is a serious chance that first round pick's in jeopardy for future years, though. Like, I mean, if the league was to come out and say it now, that kind of, make a little better. We'd be like, all right, we kind of saw it coming. It was telegraphed. We already got a quarterback, which another reason why I was going to add to a reason why we got a quarterback, guys, is the fact that first round pick could be in jeopardy in future years. Means we have to make use of. Let's make use of our first round pick this year, because we might not have one.
It makes a lot more sense now.
And also, I was looking up, like I said, I did my homework, and they had the Matt Ryan effect on there, where when you guys had Matt Ryan and there was nobody to back him up.
Yeah.
And that was
Matt. And then behind Matt, there was literally no one, and there was no succession plan behind Matt. So I feel like this is this model, which I feel like is going to be the Green Bay model. I think teams are going to adopt it more and more and more. You can't compare it directly to the Green Bay situation because of where those guys were drafted. They were both drafted in the 20s, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas, we took Penix in the top 10. So there's that. I kind of had a for and against it here, James. You know what I mean? I'm more for it than I am against it, but I've heard some of the against arguments that have been pretty compelling.
Ultimately, though, you think it's a degree of somehow blending short term versus long term.
Because when you look at Kirk Cousins' contract, so a couple of things that I hear people talk about in the media that's kind of strange to me. For one, we know in the NFL is when you get paid, the guaranteed is your contract. Stop extrapolating this man's whole 100, doing the whole 180 million and making it seem like Penix is going to sit for 4 to 5 years when the Falcons contractually have said that we only trust you 2. That's what the Falcons have said contractually, right? Contractually, he's got 90 of that 100 million due in the first 2 years, literally.
It's a 2-year contract is what it is.
It's a 2-year contract, right? The kid, Michael Penix, is 24. People act like it's 34. People are like, oh, well, he's going to come into the league and he'll be 26. What the hell do we do then? And I'm like, the guy that we have playing now is 10 years older than he will be when he comes into the league. So the guy that we have now is 36, right? but we knock that 26 is a problem. We think that, oh man, the guy comes in at 26, it's a disaster. If we get 6-7 years out of this guy and we can get from 26 to 33 with him, with Penix, that's called a successful pick. You know, if you can get 5 years of a franchise quarterback without having to worry about that position, get one full contract, guys, get one full contract, not having to worry about that position, then it's going to be successful. The only issues I had with it is when people bring up the fact that when you pick in the top 10, people expect that person to play. And I don't think that's unfair. Like, that's kind of how it goes. When somebody picks somebody in the top 10, the expectation, unless you got another quarterback or somebody sitting there, is that person will play and contribute here immediately. And I did also hear some talk about the way that Penix contract will line up with the other rookie contracts. So saying that if Penix sits, some of those guys will be time to pay some of the guys we have now that are on rookie contracts, where Kirk will be able to kind of play through that. You know, so the rookie contracts aren't exactly lined up with Penix's contract, you know, from what some of the naysayers have said. And I think that's a fair point. Ultimately, though, guys, the Falcons believe that this is their guy. And you want to take somebody you feel is worthy of the 8th pick. And I think this is something I told Demetrius that day. Like, it's something that you got to take somebody that you feel is worthy of that number, of the number 8 pick. Now, Dallas would have to turn into Lawrence Taylor or somebody to be worth that 8th pick. Like the heights of which a defensive edge rusher would have to reach to make that number 8 pick worth it. Like, I remember when Hutchinson came out, and I say I remember like it was a long time ago, but it's like
right. You remember way back 3 years ago.
I remember 3 years ago when Hutchinson came out. And I remember thinking when Hutchinson came out, that is a great pick. I remember thinking it. I mean, that's a great pick. That's a guy that I thought was very worthy of where he went. I didn't see a defensive player like that this year that just jumped off the page and say, yo, this is a top 10. The guy that we were going to pick went 17th to the Vikings. And that was a guy that everybody had us projected to pick. I don't think if Penix was on the board, he would have made it to 17. If Penix was on the board, I don't think he would have been gone before 17. So I think we did what we felt we had to do. But Terry Fontenot put his job on line here. Like, he put his neck out there. It's high risk, high reward.
Well, I've heard that Penix wasn't getting past Denver. And I think that's
true.
Once I got over my reaction to it, I thought about 3 things, because I was immediately at that place of that division is there for you to take right now. You could have added a player, whether it was an edge rusher or some skill position, who could make the 2024 Falcons better. And then I read 3 things. One of them said, what if they got it right? And Penix is the guy. Then it doesn't matter. All this is nonsense.
None of it will matter,
right? And you guys are competing for divisions for the next 5 to 7 years. We will forget about this. I will forget about this podcast. The second thing was the breakdown of Cousins' contract, because I think when I was like, Reg, y'all just gave him $100 million. It's really 2 years. Forget about all the rest.
2-year deal.
It's a 2-year contract. And then I heard the thing about the way they line up. They have a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy. And this actually fits what they're trying to do. And if they've got a strategy and they saw their guy and they went and got him, I actually like it now. I flipped 180 from that moment. So it was like, yeah. Because Red's like, look, wait, they got a plan. And I feel like that was your biggest thing was, wait, they have a strategy. And
there's some method to the madness. Step, right? There's some people thought we're just out there running around picking people. Like, there's
because I was like, wait. Right.
You weren't the only one.
Yeah. Well,
I was talking people down for hours that night.
I was thinking because my friend looked at me and said, wait, what the hell? And I was like, wait, I know a guy. I just picked up my phone and said, he can at least give me some understanding of what's happening. Yeah.
Serious disappointment by some fans. But I do think there is a strategy. And I think that, me personally, guys, it's much more exciting because I don't know, when you look at the top teams in the league, and it's cool to get out of your division, but the thing is, what does it matter if you got your division if you're going to get stomped by a team like Detroit, stomped by a team like 49ers, stomped by a team like the Eagles? Some of these teams, I don't think that one defensive player would have made us better than the better teams in the NFC in general, not just from our division, because people put a banner on getting out of the division. That's great. Just in time for you to get stomped by a better team. Like, no, I want to have a real shot. And I don't think that traded one edge rusher, because that edge rusher is who we're going to take. I don't think one edge rusher would have changed our fortunes tremendously.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I actually think we may circle back to this in like 3 years
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
we'll be
say,
back,
oh,
and then they'll be
well,
like,
Well,
"Hey, if
sorry,
Penix is
Terry
slinging it like
Fontenot, I owe you an
Stroud,
apology.
man,
Right,
it's gonna be a
right.
lot of apologies if he's out
It
there
might not even be
slinging it."
that long. If Kurt's Achilles isn't right,
yeah.
That's
Well,
true.
he
that's
might get snaps this year. So
yeah. That's what I was also thinking. Like what happens if Kirk goes down?
That's actually a problem, I think. If Kurt goes down, and the only issue, and let me see what time it is, guys. All right, I'm gonna run. The only issue, though, I would say, is the Kirk Cousins situation. Some people are like, we paid him so much money that he wasn't owed an explanation, and that part I do disagree with. I disagree. I feel like you should have told Kurt very early. You don't have to tell him who you're taking, so that he doesn't like run his mouth and stuff like that. But you should have told Kirk, hey, there's a chance that we will take your replacement this draft. Like there's an opportunity. Because here's the thing about the 100 million. Some people feel like, hey, he gets the money, so he should shut up. But about 3 to 4 teams are willing to pay him that money.
right,
So he
right.
didn't come here just for the money. He was a courted asset. People were wishing they could pay him the money. So he would have had more options. And I'm not sure if Kirk would have came to Atlanta knowing that now, whenever he has any incomplete passes, guys, that young Penix is sitting on the bench over there. That Atlanta crowd, 2 incomplete passes is all Kirk's going to get before people start chanting to get Penix into the game. So I feel like that having to constantly look over your shoulder for Kirk kind of sucks. And I don't think he would have came here, and maybe that could have been done different. But otherwise,
I think you saw that
I think
easily.
it's
Though.
better.
At this point in Kirk's career, he understands the business part of this.
Yeah.
I don't
he
even know if I
should.
buy
Well, how much
story
money
that
he's made,
Kirk,
right?
right. The
Yeah,
banker, bro.
he
I
definitely
can't
understands.
imagine. He's somewhere pissed off. I got to question him. And
Yeah,
number two, I think if he show up at the facility Thursday morning and say, hey, guys, can I look at the board? Can I take a glimpse at the big board? I'm sure they would have said, yeah, come on in here, take a look. And he saw the names. It's a business. He knows that. Nobody knows that more than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
It's a business.
I mean, So, Reggie, we know you got to go. You want to go ahead and give us your
Appreciate you
final
stopping
thoughts?
in, bro.
Yes. First of all, what's up, Don? I saw Don just come on here real quick.
Here.
Final thoughts is hoping that this all
Ranger,
works
too.
out, man. hoping that we get some good NBA playoff games, man. I kind of like what Minnesota's doing. Mr. Scott's not on today, but I like the Minnesota situation. So I'm here is hoping that we get a good series, and now that the draft is out of the way.
Yeah.
All
All right, man. Have a good one. Good
All right,
seeing you
guys.
next-
Talk to you later.
All right, man. Mr. Hayes, how have you
See ya.
been?
I'm doing good. We're experiencing some bad weather here in San Antonio, some flooding, but other than that, we're good.
Okay. Well,
I'm gonna be down there later in May. We're gonna have another lunch date. I'll let you know.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
like you said,
What you know?
all
What
right.
which dates?
I
So-
think it's the last week. It isn't firm yet. I'll let you know. I think it's the last week of May. Somewhere around the 20.
We'll go eat some more barbecue.
Yeah. More barbecue. Loved it.
So, Demetrius, I see Jeffrey's here, so we're going to talk a little.
Some ACC.
Well, there he is. All right. Good evening, Mr. Fan. How you doing?
Good. Well, sorry to
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
get on. Hey,
Yeah, well, I know it's a little late, but you were under the weather last week. But how did you feel about the ACC and their performance in the Big Dance?
yeah, it was a solid performance by the ACC in March Madness again. Yet again, the conference undervalued during the regular season. Performed very well in the tournament. Virginia was pretty much the lone disappointment, losing in the play-in game. But after that, they had 4 Sweet 16 teams: North Carolina, Duke, NC State, and Clemson, North Carolina, and then 3 reached the Elite 8 with Duke and NC State, playing on one end of the bracket, and then Clemson on the other end. And great run for Clemson and Brad Brownell. After last year, a lot of people felt like they got snubbed out of a bid, and for them to knock off Arizona out west, and get to the Elite Eight. PJ Hall and that team, Joe Girard, transfer from Syracuse. It was arguably one of the one or two best seasons in Clemson history. Then on the other side, a little bit of a disappointment for North Carolina, not advancing further, against losing that game against Alabama. But still, Sweet 16, considering preseason expectations, still a strong run for Hubert Davis and the Tar Heels. It looks like RJ Davis is going to be back next year. They're going to be really good in the backcourt next season. So after last season's huge disappointment for the Tar Heels being preseason ranked number one, it's kind of good to see the Tar Heels back in their customary second week of the tournament, but a little bit disappointing that they didn't advance a little further than the Sweet 16. But overall, I think they're satisfied. Duke reaching the Elite Eight. John Shire, following a legend with Mike Krzyzewski, that's always going to be tough to do, but he's got an ACC. He's done well in the ACC so far, reached an Elite Eight. I really don't think you can knock too much of what he's done, but that was a missed opportunity when you're facing, an 11 seed NC State to get to the Final Four. But the team of the tournament for the ACC was definitely Kevin Keats, Burns, and NC State getting to the Final Four. Just an unbelievable run. I mean, they were talking, harkening back to '83 and Jim Valvano, and all the going from basically on the hot seat, in the ACC tournament, winning 9 games in a row, ACC title at NC State. I mean, what a turnaround for NC State. From where they were, week prior to the NCAA tournament, make the field and then get all the way to the Final Four, and then play right, reasonable effort. If they would have shot better, who knows, against Purdue. But Purdue was definitely the number 2 team in the country. So overall, really strong tournament for the ACC. And we look towards next year. I think you're going to see a conference that's, provided it stays together for a couple more years, it's getting deeper. I think you're seeing at Georgia Tech, Damon Stoudemire really accumulating a lot of talent here in the off season. Kevin Keats with his run, Duke and North Carolina look like they're back to where we're used to seeing them. So I think the ACC is continuing to kind of upswing here in basketball after a couple of lean years.
Speaking of the ACC and what's going to happen, we have a judge. He's ordered mediation between the ACC and Florida State. Is that an advantage to Florida State there, Jeffrey?
I mean, I don't think either one of them has really shown an advantage, because right now, the Florida judge seems, and I'm no lawyer. I don't want to even play one.
I was about to hit you with some legal questions.
Yeah. I take it from what other people are tweeting. It's a very complicated case, but right now, the way I understand it, you've got 2, and actually there's 3 parallel cases going on right now. You've got Florida State suing the ACC in Florida. You have the suit with the ACC in North Carolina, and then you have Clemson suing the ACC. So right now, nothing's really happened with Clemson and the ACC. It came so far afterwards that the other 2 are really the ones to keep an eye on. And the North Carolina judge, dismissed several of Florida State's motions at the outset. But the Florida judge, seems to be catering more to the Florida State um, motions and suits, and like you said, James, he's went ahead and said to go ahead and mediate, but that statement in itself is not going to necessarily lead them to mediate at any time soon. I don't think a settlement is around the corner. I do think a settlement is the eventuality, but I don't think, especially with two parallel cases going on at the same time, what some people are calling it is a race to judgment, and so it's kind of a race to see which court starts handing down, actual judgments, either in North Carolina, which would probably favor the ACC, or Florida, which may favor more Florida State. But there's all kinds of legalities and going on and stuff that's legally really over my head. But I would say his statement to mediate, he actually said that 90% of the time at the outset of his lawsuits, that judge will say to mediate. So that was pretty common practice for him. And I don't think you'll see a mediation around the corner anytime soon. Both of them have the ACC and Florida State and Clemson. They're really dug in.
I think when a judge says that, historically, he's saying, y'all don't want me to do this, right? I'm giving y'all an opportunity to go sit in the room and figure this out yourself, because if I do it, somebody ain't gonna be happy, right? And the law in general is about precedent, and there is none. And I think what he's saying is, understand that if I rule on this, my rule becomes the law. My ruling becomes the law. We set a precedent. So I think he's doing him a favor, subtly saying it is much better if you, realistically, Florida State's here, ACC is here. The answer is here. It's like that. That's the reality of it. Will they come there? Probably not. And sometimes they're stubborn, and the money is so much that they will risk losing. And he basically said to them, it would be better for everybody if y'all figure this out without ever bringing it to me. And that's the subtle message. I read that, and I read an excerpt, and I think that all the legal experts that commented said he's telling them to figure this out on your own because you don't want me to do it. Because I everything you said was what I read, and it makes sense. I don't know that it's leaning toward anybody. It ultimately is who gets the first ruling, who gets the first law on a book. And if it happens in Florida, he's right. It's going to be tilted to Florida State. And if it happens in Carolina, it's for the ACC. And lawyers are getting paid. At the end of the day, that's what's really happening. Lawyers are just cha-chinging this thing, right? That's how it happens sometimes.
And what would really be wild, though, I've seen some lawyers talk about, is if the judge in North Carolina and the ones in Florida, what I've understood is typically the ones that reach the judgment first, the other one will defer to them, and that's not necessarily that may not necessarily happen here. They might reach conflicting judgments. So however this works, I mean, it's going to be a while before it's resolved. But like I said, I think the eventuality is a settlement, but I don't think you'll see it soon.
Yeah. Get ready to get familiar with a term called injunctive relief. It's going to be a term. If you follow that, the term injunctive relief is going to become a part of your vocabulary, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to be quick back and forth.
All right. What does that mean? Educate me.
You'll get a ruling in one place. The other place will run into the courtroom and say, if you let this stand, this hurts us, hit pause on this. So the law is on the books. But if North Carolina gets a law on the books and Florida doesn't affirm it, Florida will issue Florida State something called injunctive relief, meaning you can't apply that law in Florida because your ruling was in North Carolina. And it's just a state versus state thing that happens all the time, right? And they won't be able to institute it. Then you have to go back and forth again. Ultimately, the judge gave them the best advice. Sit in a room and figure this out. You don't want me doing this. You don't want the judge doing this. They got to figure it out. But as a Big Ten guy, I'm just going to sit back and watch and enjoy.
Yeah, of course.
So, Jeffrey, we know it's getting to be the start of football season. Some guys already got their spring games in. What's happening now that the NCAA has come out of the Stone Age and they're letting you guys use tablets and helmet communications, the whole bit. You don't have to use the smoke signals no more. What's going on down there?
I like those
Yeah,
signs, man.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see people, definitely start taking advantage of that. But the spring has been really interesting because there's so many players moving back and forth that it is really hard to get a handle on what's happening in the spring. So you kind of like look for individual performances to see which kind of players showed out and what you're hearing out of camps. You hear things like Cam Ward there at Miami is really showing out, and some people are already calling him, in a pretty talented conference for quarterbacks. Some people are calling him that he's going to go into the preseason being, you know, the number one quarterback in the ACC, and you've got guys at Virginia Tech like Kyron Drones, who had a really strong finish to the season, and Georgia Tech's Haynes King and Uiagalelei down at Florida State, and then you got Malik Murphy down at Duke. So and Cade Klubnik, I almost forgot about him at Clemson. So it's a really talented quarterback group in the ACC, and you've got teams with new coordinators like Jeff Collins there at North Carolina, taking over as defensive coordinator there for in Chapel Hill with Mac Brown. And you never know what North Carolina might look like if they can actually get a defense, because there's some talent on that team. I know Drake May is gone, but they return a lot of skill position talent if they could get a defense together. So a lot of question marks coming out of the spring, but I think you'll see a league that's pretty talented at quarterback. And you got the three new teams coming in: Stanford, Cal, and then SMU, which might be the kind of dark horse in the ACC. They were pretty good last year. The Mustangs were. I don't think they can win the conference, but they could come in and be successful in year number one.
Okay. Speaking of quarterbacks, there, Don, they say that some kid down there named Arch Manning had a good spring game.
He had an excellent spring game. So just let me tell you about a conversation I had. So when I was in college, one of my best friends was a guy named Bobby Burton, and Bobby Burton's been in the recruiting thing forever. He was with Rivals, he was with 247, he was with On3, and so we had lunch and we talked about old times. We started talking about Texas football, and he said that as good as Quinn Ewers is at Texas, he said it would not surprise him if Arch Manning didn't become the starter by sometime this year. He said Arch Manning's that good. He said Quinn he's in a fight for his job. Now, publicly, Coach Sark will say, well, Quinn's our guy. And I get it. He is. But Arch is he's freaking unbelievable. Not only that, the third team guy, he's a true freshman in Trey Owens. He was the Houston Touchdown Club Player of the Year in Houston. He threw for, I think, 3 TDs and like 280 yards. Just phenomenal. And so the quarterback room at Texas is pretty deep. It's
That kid's
good.
going to transfer, by the way. You might as well say goodbye to him, Don.
Who's that?
That third string guy, because he's going to go somewhere else and start.
Well, here's the thing. Sark has a system, and it worked for him at Alabama. He's recruiting top-notch guys, right? And he tells them, he goes, you'll be a starter within 2 years, because the guys in front of you are going to go pro their junior year. Quinn will be gone after this year. Manning will play 2 years, and he'll be gone. And then this guy, he's going to take his red shirt, And what's good about the red shirt is that you can play in 6 games and maintain your red shirt. So I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. I think I think these guys are really bought into the program. The only thing that would happen, I think, would be if someone came up with a better NIL deal,
Yep.
and Texas will match any deal on any player that they want. That's just the way that's
I
going to work
love
out.
it. We're talking about colleges matching deals. That's so great. I
Yeah,
love it. I love
this is a complete turnaround from what we were talking about just 2-3 years ago. I mean, we got free agency. We have, I mean, it's Wild West. The NIL and the transfer portal. I mean, they still got guys in the portal. Texas after a defensive tackle out of TCU right now. They're in competition with LSU and Oklahoma, I believe, for him. So, yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of speculation that the Congress is going to step in and try to regulate it. So good luck with that. The genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, Wild West is it.
Yeah.
Demetrius, what about your team? How are they breaking out this spring?
Ranger.
I assume we're talking Michigan State, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we got a quarterback transferred over with our new coach from Oregon State named Childs. I like what it looks like. We're going to look different. We're going to look different. The traditional Michigan State look of run the ball, pound you deep. Nah, he's going to open up this offense. Now, he needs more talent. We need more talent. I'm honest about who we are. So we're going to be competitive in the East. Shockingly, I don't expect us to win it. But another year of talent, recruiting from Jonathan Smith, we're a year away. I'll be ready to talk about Michigan State next year. I just need that school down the street to get their asses beat a couple times. That's all I care about. I can't have them running around with flags for too long because that just makes my stomach turn. So I'm gonna need somebody, anybody. I don't care who it is. But they got a new coach. Their turnover. They lost a lot of players. I don't expect a lot from them either. But I'm happy where Michigan State is. But we're at the beginning of a journey. We're not even close to being there yet. But I like the kid we brought from Oregon State.
Mr. Scott, pleasure to have you this evening. How are you doing?
Greetings. Doing well.
Mr.
Following my Timberwolves, and
Yes, sir.
this is becoming champion city. The Twins been winning 7, 8 in a row.
They're at 10 now. They're up to 10 in a row.
Great draft in the NFL. So this is becoming sports headquarters here in the Northland.
Well, before we talk about the Timberwolves and the draft, what about the University of Minnesota? How are they doing this year?
It's interesting. The whole Big Ten with all these California teams coming in, and you don't have your traditional. I don't think they've played Ohio State in a few years. I mean, I don't really know what to say about the Big Ten. I mean, it's not a Big Ten anymore. It's just a big, huge
16 or 18.
Yeah, something. So, and then
the NFC.
They really don't have a quarterback. They had a young guy that they tried out last year that didn't really fare too well. So I haven't looked at their schedule yet. I got to see if they're going to play the Michigans, the Ohio States, and somehow they've been avoiding all of that. So,
yeah, well, maybe this year you'll get USC and UCLA, or Washington and USC.
Yeah, well, they probably maybe want to stay with Rutgers and those.
Speaking of Rutgers and some of those other teams, Jeffrey, how's expansion gonna help or hurt your particular conference, the ACC?
What are you guys gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about a little earlier. Yeah, I do think eventually, Florida State, Clemson will reach a settlement. So let's look maybe or 4 years down the road, they're probably not going to be in the ACC if we're being honest. So, Florida State, Clemson, maybe they're in the Big Ten, maybe they're in the SEC. I think North Carolina is another hot commodity um, for the SEC or Big Ten, and then the other school that's come up quite often is Virginia, who is very successful with their Olympic sports. Recent national championship in basketball. The football is not there, but that's a part of the country that either the SEC or Big Ten would like to get into. So I think you might look at 2 to 4 ACC teams at some point leaving, and then they'll probably have to expand. And I think they will look to stay in Florida. So I think South Florida is the most likely candidate for the ACC to pick up to stay within the state of Florida. I know Miami's there. I don't foresee really any ACC teams moving to the Big 12. That's very much of a lateral move. So I think if you don't have a home in the Big 10 or SEC, I think the ACC likely stays intact, is what I think. South Florida would be a team to pick up. I would suspect Connecticut would be a team because of their basketball program that would be very desirable for the ACC. And then maybe a little bit further down the list, maybe Memphis, maybe a Tulane, and then it certainly ends up with this tiered system with the Big Ten and SEC in one category, and the Big 12 and ACC in the next category, and then you have your group of 5. So that's I don't force. Some people have speculated Florida State could be as gone as early as next year, and I don't think that'll happen. I think we're looking at least 3 more years before you get the resolution of the settlement and those dollar figures, because each year, no matter how you slice it, each year that goes by, the exit fee goes, that grant of rights, that settlement number is going to go down with each year that they stay. So you got to have a resolution to the court cases, all the appeals, all that sort of business. Then you got to make an announcement that you're leaving, and that's usually a year away. So I think you're probably looking at, 3 to maybe 5 years before you actually see a team leave, is what I think will happen.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
So
gonna
so
be
you know
years
so
of
you
drama.
don't so you don't think it's going to be Virginia Tech and Central Florida, like Washington and Washington State, you know, that's going to be and everybody else is gone. you,
Uh,
you, uh, I mean,
no,
what you're
I
saying sounds good, but I don't. But when you're talking about adding teams like Memphis and Central Florida, I don't see the revenue.
yeah, I mean, no, I completely agree. It's not gonna, certainly has no chance to match the revenue of the Big Ten and SEC. I think that ship has sailed on ever catching that. So I think what you're trying to do is do something similar to what the Big 12 has done, and just kind of start to form like-minded universities that have kind of accepted that that their fate, that they're going to be maybe really good at basketball, try to compete in football as best you can, but with the realization that it's going to be that tiered level. So unfortunately, the reality is the ship has sailed on really trying to catch the Big Ten and SEC, and then the point now is to just remain relevant, which means to continue to have that automatic qualifier in the playoff, which I think you'd be able to do as long as you stay above 12, 13 teams. And if you have a conference that is made up of teams that were previously, the majority were Power Five schools, like Stanford and Cal and Georgia Tech, Pitt, Syracuse, that's still more than a group of 5. But you're really on the level of the Big 12, who kind of reshaped themselves after losing all of their brand schools, and you have this tiered level. So I don't, you never say never, but I don't see a scenario where the ACC can move into that Big 10 SEC territory, especially with the result of the most recent playoff structure, where they have the media deal's already been one thing, but now the playoff payout has the Big 10 and SEC, in the $20 million plus range per team. And, they've really kind of joined forces and, dictating the way some of this is looked, and the ACC and Big 12 are, it's the reality of the situation, or kind of, just trying to stay relevant.
Yeah,
And,
now you'll see what the trickle down theory really means. There you go. Okay.
yeah, I think we're already like, looking at it. But I mean, I think for a lot of teams, if you maintain that automatic qualifier in the playoff, I still think you can have some semblance of, 4 conferences, but you're always going to be behind the Big 10 and SEC. The only way it ever changes is if the main brands of those schools decide they don't want to carry the Vanderbilts and the Rutgers of their leagues anymore, and say, hey, we can make more if Alabama and Ohio State, are forming their own kind of super league. That would only be the only scenario where it's not just purely SEC Big 10.
Right.
All right, Jeffrey. Well, hey, as always, glad to have you and you know, get your knowledge a little bit about what's going on down there in the ACC. And we look forward to having you back. Why don't you give us your final thoughts? Tell everybody where they can find your work. And hey, we look forward to having you back soon. Anybody got any questions for Jeffrey before he leaves?
No, I think it's good stuff. I think you covered everything.
All right.
I have a
Right,
question.
as always. Yeah.
I have a question, Jeffrey. Hey Jeff,
Yeah, Don.
what's the word about Malik Murphy? What kind of spring did he have?
Yeah, he's definitely in contention for winning that starting job at Duke, and I thought it was a great pickup. You were talking about the quarterbacks there at Texas, and I'm thinking about Malik Murphy. He was highly recruited out of high school, and I thought that was a great pickup for Duke. And Manny Diaz is in his first year at Duke, former Miami coach, and here he's got this great talent at quarterback, and yeah, he is right in the mix for that starting job.
Good to hear. He's
Cool.
from understanding, he's a very outstanding young man as well as a pretty good quarterback. A lot of people remember that this time last year he was pushing Quinn for the starting job. So
Wow.
yeah,
Right.
he's legit.
Yeah, he's definitely a player. But yeah, you can find me at Talkin' ACC Sports, TALKIN ACC Sports. ACC is really strong. Baseball this year, right along with the SEC, they're heads and shoulders, I think, above every other conference in college baseball. And so if you're not a college baseball fan, give that a chance. You got that coming right around the corner of the College World Series, in the next month. So that kind of gets you about halfway through the summer, and then you got about a month to go before football season, and then August 24th you got Florida State and Georgia Tech game day in Ireland, and I know the Florida State fans are kind of chomping at the bit to get hold of Kirk Herbstreit there in Ireland, and Georgia Tech. They're kind of rebounding, after some lean seasons with them and Jeff Collins. Brent Key's got them in the right direction. I think if you all remember, last year they really pushed Georgia, late into that game and really moved the ball on them. So, that's as good as Georgia's been the last few years. That's as close as Georgia Tech's came to, really being competitive with them in a lot of years. And that's that's a high when you can play with Georgia, you're doing something right, and they did last year. So that's a really interesting game to open up the season. So can't wait for that. And as always, guys, enjoy being on your show.
Good
All
seeing you,
right,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Take care.
See you soon.
All right, we'll see you.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Scott, a lot of things to talk about here. I guess the big matchup is tomorrow evening, game one. The Timberwolves taking on the defending champs. Sweep 5-6. How far is this? How far is this series going to go, Mr. Scott? You come in with a lot of delusions of grandeur here. I'm expecting to hear you say sweep.
Well, yeah, we swept Phoenix. It was a sweep, very easy sweep actually, and Kevin Durant was exposed. I mean, he was exposed as just vagabond, running to different teams trying to get championships. Should have stayed his butt in Golden State. He won a championship there. Defend it. Don't run from it. Defend it. So, and then the Timberwolves, they just lost their coach. He had surgery. He got hurt on the sideline. Mike Conley ran into him.
Yeah, but they say he'll be at the game, though.
Well, they say he'll be at the game. And then also with the Twins baseball, the Valley Sports went bankrupt, so you can't see the game.
Yeah.
You can't watch it. They don't have any, when they're doing good, now you can't see it. It's kind of an interesting time to turn it off now when they're, and so they're going to give you a refund. They say, Comcast say they're going to give you some kind of refund because the game's gone. What, 50 cents? $1?
Crazy. Figure that out. Work that out.
They're going to give you a credit on your account. You know how that goes. Come on.
That's what you get.
Ain't that how it goes, Demetrius?
That's how it goes. I have to agree with him, though. The Twins are playing really good baseball right now. It's not a fluke. They started slow, but now they're act together. The Timberwolves are really good. They're gonna give Denver a series. I'm not even predicting. I wouldn't be shocked to see 7 games. It wouldn't surprise if you get the best Karl Anthony Towns. Anthony Edwards is legit top 5 player in the league. I don't care what anybody says. You got every year a guy who's in the running for defensive player of the year. I don't love in front of Mr. Scott saying great stuff about Minnesota's teams, but I'm also an honest man. And I think he's got 2 teams that are actually very good. He should have a great summer. He should have a really good summer.
Well, you have to take the Twins with a little bit of trepidation. I mean, you're playing Chicago, who's won 3 games all year, 3 or 4 games.
Outside of Chicago, the rest of that division is really good. And baseball, by the way, this is a good year to watch baseball. There's a lot of parity.
Yeah, it should be an interesting year. Good.
It's going to be a good year.
It should be good. I want to see the Yankees. I want to see if the Judge is going to rebound. He's hitting $1 and some change now. A lot of strikeouts. It's early, but
they got the book on him. Some people have got the book on him. They know, like pitch sequence wise, they know how to pitch to him now. He's still going to get his numbers. Yeah. He's still going to get his numbers.
So Soto's the man now. We got to see what Soto's going to do. Don, what's happening down there in Texas with that old ball? I know last time I looked, the Rangers were on top and the Astros were picking up the rear. What the hell's going on?
Well, the Rangers are on they're on a whole different level right now, kind of like they were last year. I mean, they're I think they're 1 game back.
They're like a half game back.
Houston is struggling. Yeah, they're a half game. Houston they're struggling, but when we start talking about baseball, in May, it's like this thing goes on till October. Yep. So there's a lot of games to be played. I mean, right now, a team that I would kind of like keep my eye on would be like Oakland. They've showed some spunk. So
better start watching Baltimore. Better start watching them Orioles.
Yeah. Well, Oakland's won their last 4, so that's pretty good. But yeah, I think that this year's pennant races, both leagues, are going to be down to the wire. I mean, it's like I said, there's some parity going on.
I think all over the league that is, and I think Houston's
Yeah.
won 3 straight. I think with Oakland, Oakland's like 7-3 in their last 10, and the Twins have won 10 straight. That's what baseball's going to be. If it happens to be the weekend where you get the White Sox in town, you can rip off a 3-game winning streak pretty damn easy, right? And it's going to be some of that.
They are bad.
Right now, the Central Division has 4 teams, and they're all somewhere between 17-13 and 19-10. 2.5 game separate Cleveland, Kansas City, Detroit, and Minnesota. And we don't know who the best team is yet because, like he said, we haven't gotten the 40-game mark. We don't know. I'm honest enough to say the Twins still might be the best team in the division.
Yeah,
they might be.
They are.
And they started slow, but it's going to shake itself out. And thankfully, the Tigers will be in the mix. I don't know where we're going to finish, but it's interesting enough that I get to care until the Lions get back. I get to care because the Pistons didn't do shit for me this year. So I get to care until the Lions come back. But every division, there's not any gaps. I think the East, there's tied at the top. I think Seattle's a half game versus Texas. Even in the National League, there's 3-4 team clusters in almost every division. And it's going to be like that all summer because there's no one team that is way better than everybody else. And that will make baseball interesting. Even if it's average and mediocre, if everybody's mediocre, it can kind of be fun to watch because you never know.
Seems like Ranger agrees with you tonight. So
exactly, Ranger always agrees with me. That's my boy.
Yeah, he's barking at the thunder right now.
So, Mr. Scott, you always like to talk about Take My Talents. Is he going to retire as a Laker or a Cavalier?
Boy, what can you say about Take My Talents? I mean, he's done his job. I mean, he comes out every night. You know, he's giving you 30. I mean, what more can Take My Talents do? Is he going to stay there in this scheme about trying to play with his son? I mean, I don't know where that's going to go.
He ain't going to play in G League.
You know. I don't know what that's about. And he's, right now he's taking his talents to the Bahamas or somewhere now. And he's, who knows what he's going to do. They're stuck with AD, who gets his note, but he's soft in the middle. I mean, come on. You can't be rolling around on the ground all the time and be, a force under the basket. So he's got to stay with the Lakers. I can't see who's going to want him. I mean, he doesn't make teams better. Who's going to want him?
So do you think he's going to retire as a Laker, or do you think he's going to go back to Ohio and retire as a Cavalier?
He might go to Miami. What if he retires as a Heat?
He's 40. I mean, this is the end of the road here. I mean, I can't see him playing much. I mean, he can take his talents to the front office. I mean, I don't really see.
This is what's going to happen. The Cavaliers.
He's going to stay in L.A. He's staying in L.A.
Cleveland's going to draft Bronny in the second round. He's going to go back to Cleveland, play 1 year with Bronny, and he's going to retire as a Cavalier. And that's how they're going to write that story. And the city of Cleveland will eat it up. Bronny, Reggie called him a triple single. He'll average 5, 2, and 2.
No,
single.
That's what he averaged in college.
Okay. He's not going to average that in the pro. 3, 1, and 1. 3, 1, and 1 for the Cavalier. Off the Cleveland bench.
Point 1 assist, 0.3, whatever. Right. Don, what do you think?
I don't care about LeBron James.
I think LeBron will when he does call it quits. I think just because he's a hometown boy. I think he'll do it in Cleveland. Oh, that's just my gut feeling.
Okay. Well, let's talk some football, guys. Let's that's what we're here to do. So, Mr. Scott, this year's Hard Knocks, they're going to feature an entire division, not just one team. Which NFL division do you think that they should feature first?
Come on, man.
Well,
Come on, man.
I'm just going to say the Central Division, and not because of the Lions. I mean, I think the Lions were an anomaly. I think that the Vikings did a great job in the draft. I'd like to see what the Bears are going to do with that number one quarterback. I'd really like to see how that's going to work out, and the nail painter. So I'm very, very curious about the division. I think the Vikings are going to be competitive. I think that there will be another team on top of this division this year. I don't believe that there will be any repeats from the Detroit area. And I think the quarterback from Michigan, I think that's a great pick. The only thing is, he was surrounded with so much talent in Michigan. He didn't really have to do much.
Right.
I mean, he really didn't have to. He had, the defense. He had everything he wanted there. He just had to really push a few buttons. So now the Vikings, the running attack, Aaron Jones is great, but is he an everyday kind of back now at this stage of the game? But yeah, I'd like to see the Central Division. I'm real curious about how that's going to go. Not because of one who, but because of
Well, who would you like to see Hard Knocks?
So I will. My answer is obvious, but he just stole it. So I believe I'm going to pick somebody else though. Green Bay is a compelling story. I honestly, because I don't have a problem saying I love what Minnesota did. I love what Minnesota. After everything they lost Davenport, they lost Daniel Hunter, they lost Kirk Cousins. They bounced back and had a really good draft. Minnesota is going to be much more interesting than people think. The Bears are not as good as the other teams, but that Rome Odunze, Caleb Williams double tap will be interesting to watch how the Bears are evolving. Obviously, I still think we're the class of the division, and I think the data that'll prove itself out. I'm not worried about it. We had a great offseason. So I think you have a legit Super Bowl contender in us. I think you have a team in Minnesota that is about to. Minnesota's not going to dip. We thought they were going to have to rebuild. They're not. They're going to transition, and this kid is going to fit what they do. Minnesota's going to stay relevant, right? I still think we're the class of the division, like I said, but Minnesota's good, Green Bay's good, Chicago's interesting, and we're a Super Bowl contender. I think there's a case to be made for the NFC North. Now, I will say that your division, outside of the Clowns, have three really interesting teams. I love what the Steelers did this offseason. The Burrow-Chase combination in Cincinnati, they're interesting at minimum. Yeah. Well, Cleveland actually might be a shit show. That'll just be fun to watch. That actually might be a good reason. And if just for the Lamar, goofy Harbaugh type, the Ratbirds might even be interesting. I don't really call them that. I'm just paying homage to the host. I think that division is interesting too. And if you really want to get crazy, your boy Ayahuasca, but I don't feel anything compelling about Miami or New England. So I don't know. Forget that division.
We'll talk about Ayahuasca and the boys down the line here.
So I would say one of the Norths, AFC or NFC North is my answer.
What do you think, Don? You going to vote for the East or are you going to vote for somebody else?
Say that again.
Who are you voting for? Are you voting for the East? Or are you voting for the North? What division do you think they should start with?
For Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks going to do an entire division. Which division do you think they should do?
Yeah. I'd like to see the East, to be honest.
I knew he was going to do it. Just for Jerry, it might be fun.
Yeah, see now.
Yeah, I mean that's always good TV, but when you get Dallas and like Philly and the Commanders, I mean I think that's your ratings right there. You got so.
Well, since I don't really have a dog in this race, I like the West. I'm gonna go with the 49ers and the boys. 49ers, Seahawks. See how that rivalry kind of turns out there. Don, the Bears were 7-10 last year with Justin Fields. How many wins do you think they'll get this year with Caleb Williams?
7. The Bears have more issues than just who's under center.
Yep.
Let's say that. I know Caleb Williams, he's a Heisman winner and all that, but something about that guy, I don't know. He's talented. He's got a good arm. I mean, he's a great athlete, but mentally, I mean, there were some times this year where he just kind of cracked.
He paints his nails, bro. We already know what it is. Mr. Scott told us. He paints his fucking nails. That's what it is. I'm not cool with the nail painting either, man. You know I don't like to agree with Mr. Scott. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm just not.
I know it doesn't work. Just not a good look. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
So when are you saying that when he eats a banana, he makes eye contact? Is that what you're saying?
We're after dark. We're after dark for real now.
See, I told you. See, Don. See,
That's what Don Hayes brings to the podcast. We know who he is. We know who he is. I didn't say that.
Now, if he comes to his party and he changes the nail polish to white, y'all.
I don't know the significance of it. Now,
Well,
there's a world where it could actually be meaningful to him, something about a relative or something. If he doesn't explain to me why he does it, I just think it's odd and I don't like it. That's all I'm saying. I ain't talking about bananas. I don't know nothing about bananas.
We know you got your black socks on, Demetrius.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back in my day, we didn't paint our nails. Yeah, hell yeah, my socks are black.
Yeah.
My voice is still gone from the draft, and this dude running around painting his nails.
Well, we didn't wear man buns back then either. But
That's true. We didn't. That's the thing now.
Yeah, I mean, I look around here. They got the little kids, their mamas, but I'm like, get that shit. Oh, excuse me, wrong.
No, we had to
wrong show.
Don already said, yeah.
Wrong show. Okay. So let's get back on track here, Mr. Scott. 7-10 last year. How many wins they get this year?
I think they should have kept Fields actually and build around him, taking that draft choice and built around him. Gave him a great receiver, maybe get Marvin Harrison, or they could have done a lot of things that they didn't do. So I don't see them really improving. He's a rookie. He's got to start at the beginning again. So if they get to 7, I think they'll be lucky.
I agree. I think they're the worst. Yeah, they're the worst team in the division. I think they'll lose 5 of those 6 games. Yeah. And they got a rookie at quarterback, and they have more holes. Everybody's made the right points. They got a rookie at quarterback, and they should have kept Fields, traded the number 1 pick, and put a bunch of talent around him. That would have been a better team. But they're trying to do something different, and it's cool. It's just going to take a while. I don't think they're as good as the other 3 teams in the division. So I just don't think they're going to be relevant. I think he's right. 7, they should be happy if they get 7 wins. They should be very happy if they get 7 wins. I don't see it. I think they'll be drafting top 5 again next year.
Okay. Don, the Cowboys decided not to draft a running back, and they signed Zeke to a 1-year deal. What are your thoughts here, Don?
Well, this year's draft, there wasn't the there were some good running backs, but there weren't a lot of them. Does that make sense? Yep. And I think Jerry Jones or whoever made a decision, if you look at their draft choices, they drafted 3 offensive linemen. Yeah. And so I think the mindset is we'll get our running back next year. We'll live with Zeke this year, but next year we'll probably draft one. And so I think they're just kind of planning ahead, which is very the Cowboys planning ahead is very rare. Usually Jerry Jones will take the shiny object, the name, but I think they were very judicious in their draft picks. Like I said, they drafted 3 offensive linemen this year, and I think all 3 will be starters, possible. So they helped themselves. So
who's the number 1 running back? Rico Dowd? Is that your number 1 running back?
Out of this year's draft or next year's draft?
No, I'm saying right now on their roster.
Who's the number 1 back on Dallas's roster?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't.
Rico, isn't it, Don?
Ezekiel Elliott.
Probably Ezekiel Elliott. I agree with him.
Well,
Which says a lot, though.
What do you think about the Cowboys? You think they're waiting for next year, Demetrius?
No, I think Don's first point was the best point, which is that this draft was not strong at the running back position. There was no Bijan Robinson. There was no Jahmyr Gibbs in this draft. And so when you're thinking about getting value for your pick, and honestly, the league doesn't give a damn about running backs anymore. The leagues view running backs as like, when you go get your groceries and you bring them home and you unload your groceries and you keep that bag and you stick it in the pantry somewhere. And at some point you got some garbage and you just take that bag out to throw garbage in it. The league doesn't give a damn about running backs. They just
unless
don't.
they can catch.
No, unless they're on their rookie deal. That's what it is, right? Like I will be honest with you, I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know that the Lions are going to sign Jahmyr Gibbs to a second contract. I think we're going to get everything we can out of him in the first 5, and then we'll draft somebody else. That's just the perception of running backs by the league. And Dallas, I'm not going to criticize them because they drafted 3 linemen, and as Don said, all 3 of them might start. They know what the problem is. So they could have drafted a running back. He would have just got murdered behind that shitty offensive line. So at some point, you were going to have to address the offensive line. And they basically said, if we address the offensive line, Ezekiel Elliott can do as well as anybody else. I mean, the kid Brooks, is that his name, Don, out of Texas? Jonathan Brooks? I think that's his name.
Jonathan Brooks.
I like him. I like Jonathan Brooks. But there was no Bijan in this class. There was no Jahmyr Gibbs in this class. So I think they felt that way, and they thought we had to get the offensive line.
And the thing about Brooks is that the final regular season game, he went down with a knee injury.
Yep.
And so the fact that he was taken so early was kind of it was shock. I'm happy for him, but I was kind of shocked that someone would take that risk. So that tells me that the powers that be have inside information on his rehab. He must be doing good.
Yeah.
And
it's weird. Like we
Go ahead.
Zeke's only 28 by it. Ezekiel Elliott's only 28 years old. And we feel like he's an old man. He's only 28 years old. But I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah. What did you think, Mr. Scott? Talking about the Cowboys.
Oh, well, I don't know why they let Zeke go anyway. I guess they liked the other guy at the time, but I mean, that gave them a good attack. And it's really up to Dak, to me. The Cowboys, I mean, what is he going to do this year? I mean, he gets to the playoffs and then he fizzles out. He gets to the playoffs and then can't get the job done. So I think it revolves around him. I mean, I really do. I mean, if he comes out and he shows a strong, game through the season into the playoffs, yeah. But I mean, this could be his last year there, really. I mean, he got his bag, then he gets hurt. He can't play. And then he comes back and he's mediocre, in a mediocre division. I don't know. They're going to be interesting. They always are. They're going to be interesting.
Well, Mr. Scott, let's talk about the Giants here for a minute because they evidently are sticking with Daniel Jones, but they did get him some help. They got the wide receiver out of LSU, Malik Neighbors, with their at number 6. Do you think that Jones will survive the 2024 season, Mr. Scott? I mean,
really
as a starter, and I'm not talking about getting knocked out by injury. I mean,
yeah. I was just kind of surprised that he did survive. I mean, I thought that all the rumblings I thought I heard was that they wanted to go in a different direction. And so he's there, and they got a great receiver. So they must have some belief in him, even though it just seems to be kind of a tepid belief. So the Giants, they're another one of these teams that got that division is just, I mean, not that impressive.
What do you think, Don, about the Giants sticking with Daniel Jones with getting a wide receiver for him?
I think Daniel Jones it's probably not the correct thing to say, but I think he has some good years ahead of him. He's just on a team that's not clicking right now. You put him in another situation, he'll probably do much better. But I think right now, the front office, like, let's get this kid some help. And I think it's a good move. Now, I think give him another 2-3 years, see what happens. But I don't blame him for sticking with him because I think he's still kind of raw, but I think he has potential. I think they're seeing something that they like, and so they're sticking with him.
What do you think, Demetrius?
I'm really getting tired of agreeing with Mr. Scott so much tonight, but the word tepid couldn't have been more accurate. Drew Lock will be the starting quarterback of the Giants by week 5. That's my prediction right now. Drew Lock will be the starting quarterback. I think they're done with him. And tepid is what you have to do when you're in front of a camera. You can't come out in May and say, we know our starting quarterback sucks. We just couldn't get anybody else. But I ain't shocked because that's how they feel. And the reality is, I think they go into camp in a competition. Damn that $40 million. I mean, they print money in that league anyway. They don't care about that $40 million. They don't care. He's got his guaranteed money already. If Drew Lock outperforms him in camp, I think Drew Lock can take the job in camp. But I will make it right now on wax because you archive these things. Drew Lock's the starting quarterback of the Giants by week 5.
Yeah.
And I'm going to circle back and play this if I'm right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the Jets here for a minute, Demetrius. They drafted for offense. They reinforced the offensive line. They added some depth at running back. And they got him another quarterback, in case ayahuasca goes down. They drafted a safety, Alabama's Jalen Key. He was this year's Mr. Irrelevant for the Jets. They had the last pick. So the question is, Demetrius, can ayahuasca deliver a Super Bowl berth?
So I don't talk about that dude. You know that. I don't know why you're trying to set me up like this. And we after dark, and I could go off right now, but I'm trying to behave myself. I like the running back from Wisconsin. I think solid. Malachi Corley is a very good receiver out of Western Kentucky, and the tackle from Penn State. They had a good draft. I don't know what Jordan Travis is going to be. We'll find out, right? But I can say a whole bunch of stuff. But I'm trying to be good. You know how I feel about that dude. I'm not saying his name. I'm not saying anything encouraging. I will say I like their draft. That's it. That's it. If it was up to me, they'd lose he'd get hurt on the first play of the season this year, not the fourth play. And I don't have a problem with it. I have a documented history on my own podcast. I once started one of my podcasts before I said hello, before I acknowledged my producer, before I said the name of the podcast, I said, fuck Aaron Rodgers. And I will probably do it again. You know how I feel about it. I'm not trying to get attention here. You know. I don't know why you asked me that. I like their draft. I really like their draft. I'll say that, and I'm going to stop. I'll let Mr. Scott have the mic. I'm not going to embarrass my daddy's last name talking about that dude.
Go ahead, Mr. Scott. Can ayahuasca deliver a Super Bowl berth?
Boy, he's becoming. Oh boy, what can you say about some of these guys like Flat Earth and these these off the wall kinds of guys? I mean,
yes.
He's boy, he's becoming well, I hate to say take my talents but I can't take my talents down to that level. I mean, even though I talk about it, I can't put him there at that level. But
right.
It's just an oddball kind of thing. They're stuck with him. He's getting paid. Is he going to really come back with his mind on football? I mean, I thought he was running for president or
vice president,
something.
I hope he does.
And then he's in New York of all places to pull all these antics.
Yep.
So that I guess that'll be just one to watch. It'll be fun to watch and just see if he comes out and starts off great. It could be something, but if it doesn't, I think it could go south very quickly.
Don, what's your thoughts on Mr. Ayahuasca here? Can he bring a Super Bowl berth to New York?
No. In fact, I think Chicago with Caleb Williams has a better shot at going to the Super Bowl than the Jets with Rodgers.
Whoa, okay. All right.
That's nice.
Wow.
That's just. I mean, he didn't play last year. He's not really a young man. I just don't know if he has it in him to stick it out for another year, right? He might play 4 or 5 games this year. He'll get hurt or something will happen. I don't know. I just don't. I think the Jets made a deal with the devil in that.
Yeah. Speaking of making a deal with the devil, Don, I want to stay with you here because, Don, do you think that the Bills made a mistake letting the Chiefs draft your guy, wide receiver Xavier Worthy? Do you think that what do you think about this kid? What's his potential? Is he the next Tyreek, or we know he's fast. He had the fastest time in the combine, but can he catch?
He can catch. So the original question was, I think the Bills were stupid to let Kansas City get him. My answer is, so the rich just got richer.
Yep.
Yes. They got a Tyreek Hill type kid, and you know that Mahomes loved Tyreek Hill. So the Bills could use Xavier. I mean, but I don't want to. I would not want to be the general manager when those two teams play, because you're gonna have to sit there on the field and watch, Worthy, take people to the house. So yeah, that was a huge mistake. I'm glad Worthy ended up in Kansas City. I watched these teams. I was kind of hoping he might end up in Baltimore, but
Okay, all right. Well, that's right. I would have rather seen him anywhere than with the Ratbirds. I'm all right with him being in Kansas City, though. It's okay with me. Mr. Scott, the Vikings, they traded up to take J.J. McCartney at number 10. And then they took Alabama's edge rusher, Dallas Turner, at number 17. Mr. Scott, what did you think about this draft?
Excellent. Excellent draft. I mean, it was clear they needed a quarterback. And, you get somebody that's been that successful that, just comes in with enough swagger. And he's going to be, they have Sam Darnold. So I think the plan was he'd be a bridge until this draft came up. So I think it'll be an open competition. And I look for the young man to possibly start. I really do. And the edge rusher, oh God, replace Daniil Hunter. I mean, we'll see if he's that good, but I mean, he's coming with some good credentials. So I love the draft. They are the best team in the division, in spite of what some people may think. They, I think they have enough depth, and with the, some of the ineptitude I've seen of the coach from last year, Detroit, making these calls that, kind of sunk the team. They actually could have won. They could have won that game, actually. They really could have. And I never hear any real true analysis of that from one of our cohorts here. And I would really love to hear that sometime to see what really.
Anytime. I'll do my final thoughts on it. Don't worry. Stick around.
Yeah, great draft. And, the GM is kind of on the hot seat, because his drafts haven't been that great. So this one, it'll be interesting. This, like I say, the quarterback had so much around him, Michigan, so much talent. And can he bring that to the NFL? They haven't signed Jefferson yet, which I'm not understanding what they're waiting on. But once that happens, I think we're looking good. I think we're looking very good. Cream of the division.
Well, Dave is back. He came back. He got back this afternoon from Tunisia, but he'll be back next week. He's just got in this afternoon.
Save his analysis for when he gets back, right?
So I think we did rather well. I was especially glad that we got Fontenot and Frazier took care of our line. We ended up with I think the sleeper in our draft this year. Well, actually, Roman Wilson, the wide receiver from Michigan. But Don, there's a guy that we drafted in the 6th round named Ryan Watts. He's a cornerback from Texas. Tell me a little bit about him.
So Ryan Watts is he came to UT, went to Ohio State first, and then got in the portal. Came to UT, started 2 years. He's what we call the boundary corner. He was pretty much the lockdown guy. He did have some nagging injuries his senior year, but I think the Steelers got a good one. He's a smart player. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I know 2 years ago we were playing Alabama, and we had Alabama on the ropes, and he got in the backfield on a corner blitz and didn't wrap up the quarterback, and he got loose and ended up getting yards. He ended up kicking the field goal, so that was kind of his blemish for that year. But other than that, he's just a very solid guy. I think y'all like him.
Oh, okay, yeah. We got another quarterback a quarterback that we got in the undrafted free agent rounds. We got the kid from Central Florida to be our 4th quarterback. Not really sure what's going on there. Steelers usually bring in 4, so we'll see how that works out. We also got the cornerback Beanie Bishop from West Virginia. He's a big hitter, but he might do well in special teams, of course, and nickel coverage. So we'll see. Dave will be back next week. Give us the real deal here. So let's start with Don. Your final thoughts for the evening, my man.
Final thoughts. Well, right now, of course, I'm everything UT. Our baseball team isn't doing too well. We can't pitch. We have no pitching staff, but we lead the nation in home runs. They hit 5 last night at Sam Houston State. So hopefully David Pierce, the coach, can get them back into Omaha for the World Series, but we'll see. But I have no deep thoughts. In May, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Trying to get finished with school and end on a good month. But it's always good to be with y'all, and I want to hear y'all's final thoughts.
Don, how's the cheerleading team coming along?
They're good. We had a camp last month, and they did well. They got 2nd place in their division, 2nd out of 27 teams. So not too bad. Not too bad.
Okay. Demetrius, you can preach down to Mr. Scott now.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. Mr. Scott is a very smart man. I understand what he's doing, and his opinion is fine. We just disagree. I know who my coach is, and I would not want my coach to behave one way all year and then shift in the big moment. Be who you are. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It works a lot more than it doesn't. Short version on that is players make plays and players don't. The call was risky, but he's done it all year. But if Josh Reynolds catches that pass, if Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't fumble, players make plays and players don't. As far as that game, he knows the truth about the division, who's the best. He knows that. He's just messing with me, and I like it. I'm going to do my final thoughts the way I started the show when it was just me, you, and Reggie, which is this past weekend. For me personally, once in a lifetime, one of literally the best experiences in my life. I've been able to travel the world, see a lot of things, do a lot of things. My city nailed it, right? For all the bad things people say, it's on the come up. And this event in Detroit, almost 800,000 people in downtown Detroit over 3 days.
Where did they hold that? Where were they at? Were they at Shane Park? Where were they?
Hart Plaza was the events, the NFL experience and the foods and then you walk down Woodward and Campus Martius is where they had the stage, and they laid it out perfectly. There were no logistical issues. There was plenty of bathrooms. It was an easy 5-minute walk from the activities down to the stage, where the stage and the concerts were in Campus Martius Park. Beautiful. They did such a fantastic job for an event where they expected 400,000 and they got almost twice that.
I didn't think there was that many people in Detroit.
There are not that many people in Detroit. A lot of us came in for the event, which is the point, right? The logistics of planning something like that is overwhelming. And when you think there's going to be 400,000 and there's almost 8, and there's no incidents, search the internet, search the newspaper, you're not going to see some big story about some nonsense. A couple dumb knuckleheads did dumb knucklehead shit, which happens every Friday in Detroit and Minneapolis and Dallas and San Diego. Happens everywhere. The city nailed it. The team did a great job in their responsibility, the stuff they set up for kids and adults. The NFL was awesome. They had concerts and events. It was, for me, my brother flew in. I had cousins and friends there. It was a fabulous weekend. I lost my voice midday Friday. And then the Lions had an exceptional draft on top of all of that. It was literally, they're talking about $130 million economic impact to the city of Detroit. And say what you want about Detroit, any one of our cities. If you can bring $130 million into our city over the course of 5-6 days, guess what? It helps. And those $16 beers and those $9 tacos, right? Those companies are paying taxes on that. And that's the revenue for the city. All those people were in downtown Detroit. There were no issues with hotels. They had shuttles. The people mover was taking people everywhere. It was as executed as well as any event of that scope that I've ever seen. Olympics, they have issues, right? And it's way more people at the Olympics. But that's 800,000 people in a 2 square mile radius, right? Within a few blocks. And it went off without a hitch. It did. And I'm proud of the city. I'm proud of the team. I'm happy that, we showed up and there was just no nonsense, right? And I didn't expect any. The Lions are good, and the city and the fans and the people wanted a good showing on that national level. And I thought it was fantastic. Everything was excellent. The weather, God gave us great weather for 3 days. It was fantastic. So I'm just, like I said, it's a once in a lifetime experience for me. It's in my top 5 experiences in my life. It was that cool. It was really that cool.
Hey, as I said, I did share that picture on the internet, and you sent some video there too. So yeah, it must have been a grand event.
It was amazing.
Mr. Scott, take us home.
Well, I was great to hear such euphoria, such euphoric statements from Demetrius. Just such happiness because Detroit has been down so long. Actually, I don't put Detroit down at all. It's one of my favorite cities. I mean, I used to go there as a kid. My grandfather lived there, worked at Chrysler, had a new car every year. I mean, had big card games down in the basement. I mean, it's just one of my favorite places. Going out to Belle Isle, hanging out. So yeah, but my final, the Timberwolves, and I'm not going to be quite as euphoric. But I think our end result is going to turn out better than people think. I mean, I think, for one, we're better than Denver. I think we are a better team than Denver. I think if Anthony Edwards and that group in town stays healthy, I think that group, that the size that they have, and then off the bench with Naz Reid, 6th man of the year, then Nickel Walker, the guy they got in the trade. I mean, I just think they're a deep team, and I expect to be a nice deep run. And then my last thought, I guess, is that there's a lady in the Gophers basketball women's team, University of Minnesota, and her name is Ayanna Battle. Okay, she's a good player, starter, and there has been some scuttlebutt on the internet about one of the announcers. I know probably one of Demetrius's favorites, Stephen A. Smith, about his supposed basketball prowess at Winston-Salem, and nobody can seem to find any records of it. But Amaya,
he has Bronny type numbers.
wait a minute.
Right.
But Ayanna Battle's father says he played at Winston-Salem State, and Stephen A. Smith was his teammate.
Wow. Okay.
Well, they never said that he didn't make the team. They just
Well, you said he broke his knee. He said he broke his
yeah,
knee. How you break your knee? I don't know how you break your knee. I don't know.
Yeah. Kneecap, maybe? I don't know.
Well, back in the day, maybe he ran his mouth too much. I mean,
I would wager that. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not a fan, by the way. I don't badmouth him, but I'm not a fan.
Yes.
I'm not.
There's no statistics anywhere that says he played there. There's nothing.
Stephen is in his 60s, so that mouth might have got him in trouble when he was a youth.
Yeah.
I'm just
the
saying.
wrong dude, his mouth might get him in trouble.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Back in that day, Mr. Scott, come on,
Yeah, I know.
You fight, and they break it up, and the game goes on. He still go back to third base, and you still go back to the outfield.
Yeah.
No, All right, guys. Hey, well, thank everybody for joining me on this Wednesday. Demetrius, always glad to see you here with your world travels and whatnot.
It's always a pleasure, Demetrius. It's always a pleasure. And he's so happy. He's just as happy as a baby with a toe in his mouth.
I woke up this morning an hour from James, and all my flights went off without a hitch. I woke up in Mira Loma, California this morning, and my flights went off without a hitch, and I made it back in time to do the show. So yeah, I'm ecstatic. Absolutely.
Well, you're on a roll.
Exactly.
All right, hey Don, I see you already on mute and ready to go. So, hey, I'll see everybody next
Good
week.
show, guys.
Have a great weekend, and make sure you watch some good sports here. Dallas is only ahead by 2. This game is pretty good. Of course, the Celtics ran away with theirs, so we'll see. But all eyes are on tomorrow, Mr. Scott.
Timberwolves.
All right.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
See everybody later. Have a good night.
Night, guys.